If you watched the last couple of episodes, we talked a lot about who God is, understanding who God is, God's personality, God's character, understanding His nature, and how He operates. If you haven't watched them, make sure to check them out. So in today's video, I wanted to talk about who we are and who God says we are. Because I think our concept of ourselves and our understanding of who we are and how God sees us is just as important as understanding who God is. The first point I want to mention is we are made in God's image. When God created human beings, His first thought was, let's make man in our own image, which means He took inspiration from His own perfect self to create us. And I think that's such a wonderful thing, and we really should remind ourselves of it more often than we do. Remind ourselves that we are made in God's image. He hasn't chosen anyone else as inspiration to create us. He created us based on how He is and who He is. The second point to remember is you are not an accident. I don't think the idea or the concept of accident or something casual exists in God's mind. He is very much intentional. Everything He does follows a plan. Everything He does is intentional, is prepared, is pre-planned. There is nothing that is left to chance. And even if you at times might have thought that you were an accident or you weren't really planned for, even if your parents didn't plan for you, God planned for you. He was very much intentional when He decided to put you on earth. Third point on my list is understanding that we were made to reign and to govern. When we look back at Genesis, we see that God told us that we were made to reign and to govern on earth, which means that we have authority here on earth. Now, unfortunately, that authority was lost once Adam and Eve decided to pursue their own agenda. But by the grace of God, we got it back through Jesus Christ. That was actually one of the things that the sacrifice of Jesus Christ was meant to bring back, our authority here on earth. So now we have authority again through Jesus Christ in our lives. This means that through Jesus, you have authority in your life. You have authority over your circumstances. You can take authority over whatever you're going through, and you don't have to be passive to whatever is happening in your life. Whatever you ask in prayer, whatever you ask to God that is according to His will, He will provide it. He will provide you with everything you need according to His riches in glory in Christ Jesus. Point number 4 is realizing that we were made to be fruitful. If you've watched my last video on understanding God's plan for our life, I mentioned that I believe that God has given each and every one of us a gift or a talent that we have within ourselves. And it is our job to bring that talent and bring that gift out in the world so that it can bring fruit and be a blessing to other people as well. And so the same concept applies here. I think God has given each of us a talent or a gift, a mission. Each of us has a mission that we have to accomplish in our time here on earth. We're not just here to come, have a job, pay bills, and then leave. And so it is really important to understand what our talents are, what our gifts are, to invest in them, to make sure that we are fruitful and that we use them to give God glory and to serve Him. The next point is understanding that we are children of God. When you accept Jesus Christ in your life and you become born again, you are entering God's family. You're basically adopted in God's family. 1 John verse 3 says, "See how very much our Father loves us, for He calls us His children, and that is what we are." And I think this is a fairly simple concept to understand in theory, but it is a much more difficult one to grasp in practice. A lot of times we know that we are children of God, we say that we are, but I don't think we really understand. I myself struggled for a very long time because although I knew that I was a child of God, I was stuck on that cycle of guilt and punishment and condemnation. And it took me a really long time to really shift my mindset to understanding what being a child of God actually means. And the thing that really helped me the most was reflecting back on my relationship with my dad and then applying that to my relationship with God. I know that if I make a mistake or do something wrong, my dad might be upset that I made that mistake or did something wrong, but he will not stop loving me. His love for me is not going to change based on my action or inaction. And the same works with God, understanding that because He is our Father, He's not going to stop loving us, or He's not going to love us less because we fall or because we make mistakes. And yes, we have to do our best to live righteously. We also have to bear the consequences of our actions, but that does not affect how much God loves us and how much He cares for us. The reason why it is really important to know who we are, and especially know who we are in Christ, and understanding how God sees us and what God thinks of us is because the easiest way to bully someone is by attacking who they are or making them think that they're something they're not. That's one of the biggest weapons that the enemy uses against us. He makes us think that we are not good enough, that God doesn't love us, He doesn't care about us because we make mistakes, we fall, and so on. And so the only way that you can stand against a bully is by knowing who you are, and not just knowing who you are, but being 100% convinced of who you are in Christ, who God says you are, and who you are to God. I know you might have already been familiar with many of these concepts, and I think they are very much widespread concepts in Christianity, but a lot of the times we do not grasp the importance of them, and we do not realize how important it is for us to really consolidate these concepts in our mind and understanding who we are in Christ and how God sees us. And so if you are on a walk with God, I really want to encourage you, try to remind yourselves of these points on a daily basis. Remind yourself who you are in God and how God sees you. And the more you are aware of who God says you are, the less it's going to matter what the enemy will try to say about you. Thank you so much for watching, and stay tuned for the next video. I will see you next time. Bye.